Welcome back to 755 is Real. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer with The Athletic, and I'm with my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves Magnifico reliever. What's up, Eric?
Not much, Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Well, we're coming down to September. We got a month left, and this series is as close as we anticipated it would be a few months ago. Maybe closer. I know some people have doubts about whether the Braves would be able to catch the Mets. They haven't caught them, but they're one game behind. And my only reluctance in saying they're going to catch them is the Mets series. The Mets schedule is so soft in the next few weeks, whereas the Braves have got some tough opponents. If they had an equal schedule the rest of the way, I would definitely take the Braves right now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, one game might as well be none. Two games might as well be none.
Exactly, especially since they play three head-to-head at the end.
Yeah, there's no comfort in their position at this point. So I think the Braves have done a great job of fighting and putting that pressure on them and giving a chance for that pressure and a collapse to be there. You know, I mean, the Mets have earned their position where they're at this year. They've played great baseball, but getting to that point where you can now put that pressure on them and they have to look in the rearview mirror and think, we can't blow this thing. You know, and if they adapt the wrong mindset, they could easily fall apart. So the Braves have done their job of putting that pressure on the Mets up to this point.
And they also have to wonder, because Scherzer right now is out, and you got to wonder, they got to wonder if we do win the thing, is Scherzer and DeGrom both going to be healthy? Because they're always just a pitch away from, especially Scherzer at his age, is a pitch away from the side hurting, from anything hurting. There's no way for them to know, to feel really confident that he's going to be there. And you could say, yeah, he's Max Scherzer. When it's nut cutting time, he's going to be in there. But what happened last postseason?
Well, that's because that's, how he built that reputation was being in there at nut cutting time for so long when he shouldn't have been. And eventually
catches up with you.
Yeah. I mean, you can't do that forever. And so I think that it's a combo now of him saying, I can't, he's feeling the pain of doing that for those years that he did it, where he pushed through and pitched and, probably just took a Toradol shot or whatever he had to do to go out there. And now all this shit's catching up with him and he's got to make decisions now because he's realizing I can't just, nobody, it's not about mental toughness at this point. My body's going to break.
Him, Kershaw, Verlander, you marvel at all of them, what they did most of the season. And then here we are. And Father Time never loses, man. They're all in their late 30s. And all of them right now, Kershaw's back, but he just was out for the second or third time this year. Verlander's out for the second time. It's nothing serious. But again, they feel, like you said, they're not young. They can't just power through it. They know if they don't shut it down, it's going to be shut down for the rest of the season. Yeah. So Verlander, I mean, he didn't even look hurt the other day when he walked off. He had the calf strain. He wasn't even limping, but he felt it and he knew it was there. And if he kept pitching, it's not like when he's 25 or 30, when you're closer to 40 than 35.
Yeah.
That stuff's really relevant. You got to be smart about it. And they know. So, Charlie Morton has been really lucky in that regard because this dude keeps himself. He's coming back from a broken leg, and he really has kept himself healthy all year. And his mechanics are so smooth. You can see why. Yeah.
And for me, I think with Charlie, it's just he's just lined up to be healthy. He really hasn't had a lot of health. I mean, he got hit with a line drive. What are you going to do about that? But there's other guys, maybe Scherzer would have been out of the game at 31, 32, the way how violent his delivery was. And he's worked his ass off to get to the point he's at. But the work can only take you so far. Yeah. And then you start realizing, hey, I did everything right and I still got this sides pulling, or this is tweaked, and having been through a few injuries at that point. If I push this, I might miss the playoffs. So there's always stuff like that these guys are playing. But, it takes so much hard work to get to the point where Scherzer, Kershaw, even DeGrom, what he's kind of battled back through. But all these guys that we're talking about, it takes so much hard work to get to the point of even have an opportunity to push through these things and maybe try not to get injured.
Yeah, the Mets, like I said, they got the easiest schedule from here out, and it's really not even close percentage-wise. Their games against losing teams. If you look at the power rankings this week, the Athletics power rankings. The NL East has 3 of the top 11 teams in the rankings. They got the Mets at 3, Braves at 4, Phillies at 11. And I saw MLB.com had the Mets at 3, or the Braves at 3, and the Mets at 4. So it's really close. Obviously, 1 game separating them, and the Braves are healthy and playing really well right now. What'd you say?
Why are the Phillies in that?
Well, they were playing really well. They lost. They stumbled a little bit, but at 11, I think they're pretty deserving of that. They've played really well, and they just got Harper back. So
yeah, that's true. I forgot he was back.
They got the 2 starters. They got
yeah, and they're going to be in the wild card.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be in the wild card. They got them. Let's see, in the power rankings, we got. Well, the Braves have got this road trip starting tonight in Oakland. You're talking about 8 games. And, the West Coast was always rough for the Braves, but the last couple of years, or last year, they kind of changed that narrative a little bit. They struggled out there this year at the start of the season against the Dodgers, obviously. But last year, they had a good road trip. And this time, only one of the teams they're facing is good. And it's the Mariners, just kind of reverse of what it's been in the past. But they got 2 against the A's, who are 29th in the power rankings, ahead of only the Nationals. 2 against the A's, 3 at Seattle. And you know very well how good Seattle is right now. And they got a superstar rookie of the year. You're talking about the AL and NL rookies of the year in this series.
Yeah.
Whether that's going to be Rodriguez for Seattle, but whether that's going to be Harris or Strider for the Braves. I think it'll be Harris. I don't think it'll be really close, but Strider, if he keeps having more games like he had the other day, he might make it closer.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to take, is a few more just ridiculous outings and some, if he has, how many starts he got left? 4, 5?
Yeah.
So if he has 2 or 3 ridiculous starts and 2 or 3 that are decent, those ridiculous ones could just get him kind of the attention he deserves. But for me, it's just the everyday player's got to get it.
And Harris, after going through a little bit of a lull for a couple of weeks, is hot again, man. He just had a 3-hit game with 2 ribbies again with the late. And I think people are going to notice his performance in late and close situations.
It's a joke.
Is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. You're waiting for it to end, and he just keeps doing it.
Yeah, just keeps doing it. So he's hitting 309 with an 890 OPS. I mean, we're 90 games. He's at 90 games in now. That's insane, man. This kid, you're talking about with 16 stolen bases. He finally got caught for the first time Sunday. 15 home runs. I mean, he's doing this from the number 9 spot mainly. He's moved up in the order some now, but he's just doing everything while playing Gold Glove defense.
Yeah.
I mean, he is very deserving of the Rookie of the Year, obviously. And the only guy I could even see giving him any competition would be Strider.
Yeah.
So it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good series in Seattle. After the 2 games in Oakland, Seattle's got a hell of a rotation that people on the East Coast really don't know much about.
I don't know anything about it either because I'm blacked out.
We had like Robbie Ray for one, but they got a good. They got a good rotation, man.
Robbie Ray started off slow, but he's turned it on the last couple months.
Yeah, they got a good team. But even though they got 2 against the A's, so everybody's just thinking, okay, they'll sweep those, and then they should win 2 out of 3 against Seattle at least, and then maybe they can win 2 out of 3 or sweep the Giants. It usually isn't that easy if you look on paper and it says that. But even though they're facing the A's and the A's are terrible, the A's have got Cole Irvin going tonight. He's got a 3.35 ERA, 7-11, but that's because of shoddy run support, crappy defense probably. But he's got a 3.35 ERA, so that's a good matchup tonight with him and Kyle Wright.
I bet it's going to be the smallest crowd they play in front of all year.
Oh, the Braves? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it will be, especially on a Tuesday night out there. And it had a heat wave out there. For them, it's a heat wave. I think it'll be the first time the Braves have played probably. They've had a couple small ones in Miami that were under 15, but that'll be the only one comparable.
Something about that stadium, though, it's just like it's loud and it's weird noise in there. It's just, there's always they have that Clevelander bar making noise out in left field. At Oakland, all you hear is the drum. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's annoying noise at Miami with that roof shut. The music is really loud and it just bounces off that
echoing
roof when it's not many people there. Yeah, it's a very unique environment there.
Yeah.
But the Braves have played really well since they opened that dome. The Mariners are up to 8 in our power rankings. They were 11 last week. They're hot, man.
Yeah, they've been playing really well. And the city's going to jump behind them, too, because they've been waiting since 2001 was the last time they made the playoffs. And if they wind up, if they could snatch home field for the wild card, that stadium's going to explode.
Great environment, yeah.
It'll be awesome.
And it's funny because the A's are 29th in the power rankings this week. They're ahead of only the Nationals. Did you see what the Nationals just did? We talked about in baseball, any team on any given day can beat any other team. The Nationals just won 2 from the Mets Saturday and Sunday, and then beat the Cardinals on Monday. They outscored those 3 teams, playoff teams, obviously, division leaders, 20-2 in those 3 games. The Nationals. I mean, back-to-back 7-1 wins against the Mets in New York, and then a 6-0 shutout against the Cardinals.
That's why it's so stupid we had a wild card game, a single game set.
Exactly. Ridiculous.
Because teams like that you could have had a 1-game wild card game where you spin a roulette wheel with all the teams' names on it. You just let a random team in against a team that won 90 games, and they might get through. It has to be a 3-game set at least.
The Nats out-hit the Mets in those 2 games, 25-10. I mean, who saw that coming? So, by the way, I was looking at Gwinnett's game notes today, pregame notes, AAA Gwinnett. Dude, check out how good their rotation has become all of a sudden. The next 5 games, they've got Kyle Muller, Ian Anderson, Mike Soroka, Bryce Elder, and Darius Vines is a really up-and-coming prospect. Really good arm. That's their 5, the next 5 games.
Dang.
That's pretty strong.
How's Soroka's last couple starts gone?
That's a better rotation than a few major league teams.
How's Soroka? Well, how's Anderson been looking down there?
Not good. Ian gave up 19 hits in 2 games. Some of them were soft contact. Wasn't a lot of runs. And the second one was 9 hits, but only like 2 runs. But a lot of hits.
That's hard to do.
Which, some of those maybe in the big leagues aren't hits, but with the better defense and the shifts and all that. But, yeah, that's a lot of hits. That's a lot of hits. 10 hits and 9 hits. In a total of 11 innings, 19 hits. Soroka bounced back from that 3rd start, second at Gwinnett, with a really good one in 4 before the rain. He was really cruising through 4 innings. Had 5 strikeouts, had a really good start going. So that was really encouraging.
And they didn't send him back out after the rain?
No, they ended up suspending the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he didn't go. They didn't finish the game. So that counts as one of his starts. That probably sets back the timetable a little bit, if there is a timetable, because they want to build him slowly. And he obviously didn't get – he was supposed to go to 90 pitches in that one, but didn't get anywhere near that, obviously, because he would have gone 6-7 innings at least if he kept going. So we'll see. His next one is, like I said, not today. Today's Tuesday. His next one would be Thursday. So –
I wonder if they think about using him. Well, he can he? What are the rules for him to be on the playoff roster? Is it just 40 man? You have to be on the active.
No, he's eligible.
He's eligible.
It's anybody on the 40 or the 60-day IL.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I wonder if they think about using him
in the postseason.
Yeah.
I mean, if he really came on strong in his next few starts, but the problem is their starters are throwing really well.
Yeah.
Especially Odorizzi had the 2 really good starts before he got scratched the other day, which was arm fatigue, kind of like Kyle had when they were able to pass him up, which they can do right now because they've got guys like Elder came up and pitched really well against Miami again.
Yeah, they did.
Really good time to give Odorizzi some rest because Elder against that Miami lineup, I mean, literally he's facing as good a hitters in some of these AAA games as he's facing with the Marlins right now, or really close. That is a terrible lineup right now with the Marlins. They got good pitching, really good pitching. So they're in all these 1-run games because their pitching is damn good. But they're hitting right now. Their lineup is as bad as it gets, man. Their lineup is far worse than the Nationals.
I just wonder what what a Marlins fan feels like.
Well, their guy's hurt, their main guy. I mean, they've had, injuries. And so, and they traded away a couple of guys at the deadline. So the one guys they had, but what they're left with, Brian Anderson is, then a bunch of just borderline major leaguers. So the other day, I swear, I thought if the rain had not come, I thought this might have been the day Fried could have thrown a no-hitter. He got through 4 or 5 rather in 62 pitches. I'd have to look at it again. But dude, he was just cruising. I mean, it was not even any close. It was just soft contact. He had a bunch of strikeouts. They had a walk finally in the 5th inning. He had a perfecto go until then. And I really think he could have thrown a no-hitter in about 110
He had 66 pitches through 5.
It was absolutely man against boys. It was. I really think he would have thrown a no-hitter. Which, as somebody pointed out on my in my story in the comments section, somebody made a good point. As much as you'd like to see a guy throw a no-hitter, it might end up being best for them because, Snit, if he's up to around 85, 90 pitches after 80, he's sending them back out there. When you're that, we got a no-hitter going.
Yeah.
He could have easily thrown 110 to 15 pitches and got a no-hitter. And that would have been like, if he'd thrown 115 pitches or whatever. That's the kind of thing that could, with as careful as they are with pitch counts these days. I mean, back in the day, that's nothing, 115. But right now, when they're pulling them out every time at 95, 100 pitches, 105, all of a sudden you go 115, 120 pitches. That might have lingered for him as we get into September, late in the season in September.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I think almost every manager starts getting to that 6th and 7th inning, and their guy's got a no-hitter going, and he gives up like a bloop single with 2 outs.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a sense of relief.
Relief.
Yes, maybe not if it's just a crusty vet that when he's,
like Mattingly, he doesn't give a shit. Yeah, but there are guys.
No, I mean a pitcher. If it's a pitcher you don't care about too, and you're not in it. And
like Charlie Morton. They're going to let Charlie go.
Yeah, or Bartolo. Say he makes a comeback and he's got a no-hitter in the 8th. They'll let Bartolo throw 250 pitches. Right. But if it's like Fried or somebody you need, your ace, and you're going to the playoffs, I'm sure there's a sense of relief when something falls in the 6th or 7th and they don't have to make that tough call.
Yeah, because it's a tough call if it's in that borderline area. I mean, if he's got like 95 pitches going to the 9th inning, he's going to let him go out there.
You have to.
Snit's going to do that. Now, if it's at 100, maybe
in the 7th.
If it's at 100 going to the 9th, then he's like, okay, we'll go batter to batter and we'll see if he can get 3 quick outs, But if it's like 95, whatever, it's not even close. He's going to let him go out. And then, if the first couple of batters, all of a sudden you're up around 110, you got to leave him in. You're not going to take him out. So he could go 120 pitches.
And they can walk 2 guys.
Right. And for a guy that's been throwing 95 to 105 pitches to all of a sudden go 120, that's the kind of thing that could linger at this point in the season, especially where you can't really afford to rest him for a day,
Right.
So there's good and bad, but that could have been and the no-hitter just doesn't mean as much anymore either.
That's what I was going to say.
Let's face it doesn't. But an individual no-hitter, there aren't a whole lot of those anymore just because nobody's getting allowed to go long enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kershaw got yanked this year without giving up any hits.
Yep, he did.
But for the most part, you don't really see pitchers get yanked out of the game. Well, you do, because you'll see a guy at 90 pitches through 6.
Right.
And no hits, and the manager will just be like, there's no way we can leave
right.
him for
There's
this.
No way.
We saw Ubaldo Jimenez do it. Ubaldo, I think, threw 140 against us, that no-hitter he threw against the Braves.
Yeah.
It didn't even feel impressive. We didn't even know there was a no-hitter going until like the 8th inning. Then we looked up, and somebody's like, man, this guy's got a no-hitter. Because it didn't feel impressive because he was grinding so hard to get through the outing. Is a walker.
It's a weird time, man, in that regard. I mean, dude, I think back to the no-hitter the AJ Burnett no-hitter that I covered in San Diego. 9 walks and a hit batter. 9 walks.
Oh my.
Oh yeah, look it up.
You're like, this guy threw like shit.
We're in the 6th or 7th inning. It's a West Coast game, obviously. We're sitting there. I'm sitting there eating popcorn, literally, because it's like there's no way I'm going to file this game story. I'm going to miss deadline and we had much later deadlines then than they do now. But but it's a West Coast game, and you're not going to get it in. But like 6th, 7th inning, I call the desk. I go, I don't think he's going to throw it because he's walking a ton of guys. But Eric, but just so you know, AJ Burnett's got a no hitter going. They're like, okay, thanks for letting us know. We'll hold it. We'll hold it for now until he gives up something. And then all of a sudden he started clicking outs really fast, and I'm going, oh shit! And I'm going,
locked in.
Yeah, so I started hammering a story out, going, this dude might do it, but because he walked a ton of guys early. If you look at it, he had like 2 base runners on every inning in the first 5 or 6 innings, and he just kept getting out of it. And then the last 2 or 3 innings were like that. Quick, it was the strangest thing you've ever seen. And the amazing thing is, when you hear a 9 walk no hitter, you think, how many pitches? You go 145. He didn't. It was like 125 or 30 pitches with 9 walks.
So he was walking guys like 3-0, ball 4, 3-1, ball 4,
and then getting quick contact on the other ones.
Must have got some double plays.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to go back and look at it on the number of pitches, but it was under 130. I'm almost certain. I think it was like 125.
Yeah, see, and I think that's where you can't tell me there's a drastic difference between 100 and 110. You can't tell me there's a drastic difference between 90 and 100. But once you start adding in 30 pitch chunks, and now you're talking you're from like 130 to 145. Edwin Jackson had to be somewhere in the 140 range in the one he threw in Tampa. And then you're talking that big of a gap. I can definitely say that if you get to that point, there's going to be some hangover effect on your arm, or like the one Johan threw. And it was never really the same.
It was never the same again. This was May 12th, 2001. It was the 3rd Marlins no-hitter. I covered them all. Al Leiter had one against Colorado. Kevin Brown had the most dominant no-hitter. I've covered 6 or 7 of them, including a combined. Kevin Brown's at San Francisco at Candlestick Park was more dominant than the perfect game I saw Randy Johnson throw against the Braves. Kevin Brown's no-hitter at Candlestick was the most dominant pitching performance I've ever seen, dude. All he did was hit a guy. That was it. Otherwise, it was perfect. And that was the year Kevin Brown had like impeccable control, but he led the NL in hit batters. He was nasty, man. Kevin Brown did not think twice about getting the guy. So
did he just smoke somebody early, not really knowing what kind of outing he was about to have?
I think that one might have been a guy didn't try to get out of the way because he knew. No, it wasn't early. It was like 6th inning or something. Might have been one of those where he didn't really try to get out of the way. I have to look back. But that was it. It was a Candlestick. The wind was blowing. It was chilly. And he was just he had, his sinker. Every hitter that year, you'd ask him after the game, an opposing hitter. And I don't know how many times it was described as like trying to hit a bowling ball. His sinker was the nastiest pitch. God, what a year he had. But yeah, that was the most dominant one I saw. So I've had the extremes from Randy Johnson's perfect game to AJ Burnett's 9 walk no hitter. But I'm looking it up right now. 129 pitches. And he struck out 7 and walked 9 and hit a batter.
God, how long was the game?
That's insane, man. It was a 3-0 win. It was a 3-0 shutout.
Yeah,
walked 9 and only gave up 3 runs. How do you do that?
Wait, he gave up 3? No.
I mean, no, he threw a shutout.
Okay, gotcha.
He threw a shutout. He walked 9 and gave up no runs. How do you even do that?
Yeah, double plays. There had to be double plays. Sometimes the box score shows that, but
yeah, I'm just looking at the game story from it. Let's see if there's a box score in it. But that was a memorable one because John Henry owned the team at the time, right? And he used to come to all the games. John Henry was a big fan. He'd come to the games. He loved it. And his wife was at that series. He had his yacht docked in San Diego. That was the one place where he could take his yacht to the games in San Diego because he had a massive yacht and he couldn't even dock it in most places, right? Yeah. And he had a crew on it all the time. They had to keep the sides cleaned up. Had all this wood on it. It was a massive yacht. And San Diego had a big enough marina that he could dock it there. So it was there during the series. He let us go. He asked the writers out one day to come out to lunch on his yacht. It was pretty cool because he had the team on the night before. And we're like, we didn't get invited. So he invited us the next day. So anyway, his wife was like, okay. You guys are going. His wife was like, would you please take me out one night while we're here? So as much as he hated missing the game, he said, okay, honey, we're going to go out on this night. We're going to chill. We went out to dinner with her that night. Was not at that game. He went to all the games. He was not at that one. And they're eating at some nice restaurant. And he's like, this was before you got alerts on your phone and all that, but he's keeping up with the game somehow. I don't know what it was, but there's a no-hitter like in 7th inning. And his wife knows there's a no-hitter. And he goes, finally asked, can I go? And she's like, yes, go. And he had his driver. It was at San Diego's Qualcomm Stadium, the old stadium, Jack Murphy Qualcomm. His driver flying out there to get him there. And he gets there in like the 9th inning. There's like 1 or 2 outs left. There was remember the massive parking lot around that stadium?
I never went to that one.
Oh, it was a massive parking lot around the stadium. Well, after like whatever.
To Dodger Stadium?
Yeah. And after all those multi-purpose stadiums that weren't downtown. And after a certain point in the game, they put up that you could not get in. You could only get out. So his driver, his limo gets there, and he's like, I'm John Henry. I own the team. And they're saying, I'm sorry, sir, you can't go any further than this. He had to get out of the limo, and he's like jogging up to the stadium. It's like John Henry. He's like this little skinny guy. He jogs up to the stadium. He gets there right after the last out. He doesn't see any of the game. So he's all flustered afterwards and all that. But anyway, it was a memorable night. But anyway, getting back to where we were on allowing guys to go. I don't know how many we're going to see more individual 9-hitters. That's just like what you said, older guys that they let go.
Yeah.
He would let Charlie go 120, 125. I'm sure if Charlie said, I'm okay, but
I watched Scherzer throw one that was just like, that was probably when you talk about the most dominant pitching performances I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was maybe Lincecum in the playoffs against us in 2010.
Oh, yeah, that was.
Or Scherzer in 2015. I think it was the last game of the season. He threw a no-hitter, and it was almost a perfect game. And you knew after the 2nd inning, we might not get a hit today. Just the way he was walking around the mound. And I think we threw our B squad because we clinched already.
Right.
So it was just a matchup where it's like, these guys don't have a shot.
The Marlins have not been no-hit this year, have they? They will be, I think, before it's over. It might be a combined one, but I think they will be. That team is so bad. That lineup is so bad right now.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah. So, so this is a big road trip for the Braves, obviously, because they need to take advantage of Oakland. And the Giants right now are one time where they're really bad right now. The Giants are pretty bad. They're always better in that part. And against the Braves, they'll be jacked up. But they just don't have much right now. And they're this is the time where the Braves could go in there expecting to win the series, and that's rare whether they go in there. It's been a while, but realistically, they should win. If they should be happy winning 2 out of 3 against Seattle if they can do that. But they should, win 2 games at Oakland. If you win 2 out of 3 at San Francisco, I mean, you'd be thrilled with a 6-2 trip, or you should be. But they should 5-4, still a good trip. But,
just a winning road trip on the West Coast anytime you do it. I mean, I know it's not
8 games, so we have 5-3. I mean,
5-3 would be amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what they probably should aim for. But Seattle's tough. They're tough.
Yeah, and San Francisco and Oakland are just difficult parks to play in their own way.
Yeah,
it's colder weather. You're not used to it. It's shitty bullpens. So I think even in San Francisco, the thing that always tripped me out was you had the right field foul line running right through the lane of where you were throwing. And it messes with your angles. And then you got all these fans sitting here, and fans can talk to you like me and you are talking right now.
Yeah.
And you're trying to warm up. So you get young relievers going in there. They don't know how to really either talk shit back to the fans or just completely zone it out.
Like it used to be at Wrigley.
Yep. The guys get rattled in those stadiums. And Oakland is the same way. And they'll ride you hard. And it's same thing. It's cold. It's just you don't feel good pitching there.
Hopefully, right now they're having a heat wave, so that'll help.
Yeah,
that'll help. It'll feel a lot more like home. Olsen should be able to help some guys,
Yeah,
and he certainly will be able to handle that foul territory because he played there a long time and made a lot of catches in there. So they got that going for him. I'm interested to see what he'll do there. I mean, he loves hitting there, obviously, but
they're on one of the roughest bullpen warm-up trips possible because Safeco's the exact same way.
Yeah,
Safeco used to have a net. Safeco used to have a net between you, and now that's wide open. I mean, the fans could reach out and
like at Wrigley used to be.
They could Matumbo your throw mid-throw when you're warming up in the pen. They could actually reach out and slap the ball out of your hands. It's
that is
right
crazy,
there,
man.
Yeah.
Did they just build it like that because the footprint, they had the space available when they built Seattle's ballpark?
Yeah, it's part of the layout. I mean, it's really cool. They have the beer garden to the left of the home bullpen.
Yeah, I like
and
that
then
ballpark.
It's all their like bar. I think they wanted to keep all the degenerates kind of down tucked in this one area, where everybody's going to kind of go try to party and be loud.
Yeah.
And if you're going to try to do that, why not have them do all their shit talking to the bullpen? I don't know why every team doesn't make it as uncomfortable as possible to be in the visiting bullpen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did a roundtable today. It's some pretty good stuff. If you guys haven't seen it, we had all the NL East writers talk about the season they're having. Some one player to look at the rest of the year to keep an eye on for people on opposing teams, fans that really maybe not know this guy, and a prediction on where your team would finish and all this. And I put in there, for where I think the team will finish, I put second with a caveat. I reluctantly did it. I didn't want to be a homer and say first. I said the Mets, but I also said, and we wrote this before Scherzer had his latest injury, I said they're one injury away from that changing, because if DeGrom or Scherzer gets hurt, that changes the calculus to me. Those guys need to both be healthy for them to be, and they got, and also, like I said, if the schedules were equal, I wouldn't even hesitate to pick the Braves, even with a healthy DeGrom and Scherzer. I think the Braves are playing better right now, but the Mets schedule is so much softer. So, but Scherzer, depending on how long this thing is, how bad this thing is, it's different. So I think all bets are off. I'm not going to be at all surprised if the Braves win this division. They're one game back now, and they're playing really well. And the starting pitching, especially with Odorizzi, I think the arm fatigue, that's not a big deal. I think it's, they took advantage of being able to bring up Elder to face the Marlins again. Elder handled him just like he did the last time. Odorizzi's had back-to-back really good starts. But the first four, I mean, you can't overstate how impressive Spencer Strider's been. I mean, he right now is just
he's made your bullpen idea just kind of
I'm not even talking
a non-option. You know what I mean? It's not that you had a bad idea at the time. It's just nobody. You don't know if the guy's going to come and do this after and strike out 16, and it's like we can't afford to not have this guy. He might be our number one. Now it's going to be Fried, but
now it's like, do you start him? Where do you start him? 2 or 3? You know what I mean? In the playoffs. Yeah. Now it's gone from, do you put him in the bullpen, let him be a multi-inning guy? Well, I don't think that anymore, because he's had those 2 starts since we had that idea. But right now I'd have him 2 behind Max, and I'd have Cal Wright 3.
I would too.
And as ridiculous as it seems, depending on what happens between now and then, if Wright keeps it going, maybe if he starts to show some fatigue or whatever, which he hasn't so far, then I wouldn't hesitate. I'd put Charlie at 3. But and then if you had to skip Charlie for that first round, you could do that. And man, how big a luxury would it be if you went 3 games in that first series, if you don't win the thing and you have to play the wild card series, to have Charlie Morton starting game 1 for you in the division series, if you go 3 games in the division.
If anybody can handle that,
Yeah. And if you go 2,
he's done it.
If you go 2, if you win the thing in 2, if you have to play a wild card series, you could have Kyle Wright and Charlie Morton as your first 2 games in the division series, and Max Fried. You're set up really well with 4
then
stars.
Then you get Strider game 4, against whoever they're throwing for.
Oh God, yeah. Or bring them back on. I have to look at how the thing works out, but you might be able to bring Fried and Strider back for 2 and 3 and 4. Yeah. So that it just changes everything when you have those 4 starters, especially with them eliminating that travel day in the second series and the World Series. So that second travel day. But for the guy that picked to click, or the guy to watch, I put Strider, obviously, because I think most people are well aware of him now after he struck out 16. But for fans, in other cities that have not seen this guy, especially you go out to Seattle or Oakland, and they're going to see him for the first time. And I think they're going to be blown away like everybody else is the first time they see him, at how good he is and how dominant. Now, he's a different This is a different animal, man. I mean, the Braves have had 3 Hall of Famers go through here. At one time, they had 3 Hall of Famers on the staff. None of them was quite like this guy, though. I mean, it's a totally. I'm not comparing him to Smoltz or Maddox or Glavine, 300 game winners, Hall of Famers.
No.
I'm just saying, none of them was the strikeout machine that this guy is. The strikeout dominance that this guy. None of those guys was that kind of pitcher. Smoltz was the closest.
Name a starter that was.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, DeGrom can strike out 16.
DeGrom is, yeah, and there's been a few others that, you know, to do with the White Sox right now, Cease, but
yeah, he can strike him out.
But like you said, I think B-Mac told you it's like Kimbrel for 8 innings. That's a pretty good description of it. What he was the other day, you know. I mean, that's what he was the other day. When you strike out 2 guys, when you average 2 strikeouts an inning.
No,
that's what you're talking. That's what you're talking about.
Starting pitcher does, and he doesn't do it by nibbling. You know, I mean, that's why he struck. That was the point I was trying to make about his last start, is that you didn't see swings you don't see from him. He gets the same swings every time he pitches. There's never a time where it's like, oh, I might not have it today. He either just walks a few guys or gets into deeper counts and misses. But if he's in the zone, he's going to strike out 12.
Yeah, and he doesn't overexert. That's the amazing thing.
No, I mean, it's the same. His start last time was very predictable if you were to predict him to throw a ton of strikes. It's like his stuff is just so overwhelming that he's just got to get it in the zone. And, you know, to give him credit, he can throw high strikes with that pitch, with his fastball.
And they just can't catch up to it.
I was talking to a buddy. I went and stayed at a buddy's house, Mark Lowe, that played a long time in the big leagues, relief pitcher. And we were talking about how when we were coming up, you were taught to throw strikes to the bottom of the zone. And never once, when the catcher told you to throw a high fastball, did you one time practice throwing it for a strike.
Yeah.
In your bullpen, you know, toward the end of your bullpen, you let the catcher call a few. They'd call a high strike and they put the glove up above by the batter's chest.
Yeah.
There was no competitiveness to it. It was strictly a chase pitch. You're putting it up there. If the hitter wants to swing, they swing. If they don't, you're just using it to set something else up. And the last 5 years, you've seen he said he threw a bullpen. He went to Tampa, and they said, look, if you hit this spot with your fastball, when you throw it here, the hitters swing and miss. But he only threw it there on accident. It was a miss pitch for him. Like he'd fly open and push it, and it'd wind up in that up and away spot. But he wasn't trying to do it. Hitters would swing and miss, and they said, let's go throw a bullpen, and we're just going to set up there for the whole bullpen. You practice hitting that spot. He threw 30 pitches and hit it once, because it's a pitch that when you're throwing your bullpen, when we were coming up, if the hitting coach or the pitching coach was watching and you threw that, they're like, get it down.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to hear. You never tried to hit the glove in either upper quadrant of the strike zone.
And Strider does it all the time.
And now he can do it. And
top of the zone.
He can just dot up there. He can put it on both sides. He can put it middle. And the beauty of it is when he does miss down, it's like it still has so much life on it that he gets away with it.
Yeah.
But he's able to play off that fastball at the top of the zone that he can throw for a strike. It's the same thing with like a breaking ball. When a guy has a nasty breaking ball and they can't throw it for a strike, the hitters eliminate it. As soon as you can spot a high fastball at 99 and they have to swing when they see it up, you can do anything you want.
And then he'll hit the bottom of the zone with it, and he'll hit the top of the zone with it.
Yep.
I mean, you get some ugly swings. He is like the enemy of the launch angle swing, man. This guy. That launch angle swing does not work against this dude.
No, it doesn't.
He's come along. He's had a perfect time. The way he pitches, he's come along at a perfect time, too.
Yep. And that's kind of what the whole launch angle thing was just hitters saying, all these pitchers are throwing these cutters, these sinkers. How do we stay inside these pitches and lift them over these shifts? And then now that you got the four seamers coming back, the curveballs coming back, and guys are throwing to that top angle of the zone, it's really hard to stay inside a pitch at the top of the zone. You pop it up, you foul it off, but you can't really do damage up there. And if they can throw it for strikes, you have to swing. So sometimes pitchers like him come along at the right time in the game. Yeah. You know, if he was pitching against the 2006 Angels and they were just ready to just pepper balls to left field,
right,
they might piss him off and give him fits. But most teams now, they got deep swings. They're trying to catch the ball deep. They're trying to lift it. And You can't do that on 100 with the life it has. So it's a great time for him to be coming into this league.
I mean, he could do some rare things right now because the game's not – it takes a while for the game to change. If it's going to change, it's going to take a while.
Oh, he's got a minute.
And guys aren't going to change their swings and everything for one pitcher because there's nobody else like him.
No, hey, it's a tough day today.
Yeah, we got to face
the other guy tomorrow. Yeah,
I'm going to strike out 3 times today, but when we come back tomorrow, yeah, I mean, he's going to do some crazy things, I think, with strikeout numbers.
Yep.
And if he was going more innings, the thing is, the reason he won't get like any records, like bulk records, he might get rates, but records is because he's not going to throw 200 innings, 250 innings like guys did back in the day. You know, I mean, Smoltz threw 230 innings and had 250 strikeouts, you know.
Yeah.
But this guy might throw 160 innings and have 250 strikeouts.
It'd be hilarious if somebody tried to tell him to pitch to contact. I mean, with his fastball, and the only thing he could do is just purposely throw slower. And it's a lot harder to throw strikes when you're at like an 80% effort than it is, 90, 95% effort, closer to that top, the thing you practice the most. But it'd be funny if somebody was like, criticizing him, you got to pitch to contact. And he went out there and just threw the ball right down the middle every pitch. And he still got pop-ups and struck guys out.
And imagine when you could put him 1-2 with him and Fried, because I think you can do that in postseason. The difference in this left-hander with this big old school curve, who can also hump it up in the mid and upper 90s, but facing him one night and then facing Strider the next day. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, and it hurts your confidence. It gets hitters thinking and tinkering and changing their swings when you face guys this tough.
Yeah,
especially if that's why you're right that hitters aren't going to change their swings for one pitcher, because you face Strider and you do all this stuff to get on top of the ball, get on top of the ball, get on top of the ball, and you face Fried the next day and he's got this late sink and late cut to his ball.
Yeah,
and you're just chopping it into the ground or swinging and miss or chasing pitches down.
Yeah, Strider's like facing a knuckleballer. It's like it's not going to be good.
That's how I'd look at it if I was my team. I'd be like, "Oh, boys, just go battle today."
Fried's getting all this soft contact, man, during games, and Strider's like getting no contact.
Yeah.
But Mets, by the way, their schedule, the winning percentage of their teams the rest of the way, according to Tankathon, I don't even know what the hell Tankathon is, but it sounds interesting, is 422. And the next closest, Cardinals, 448. 422 the rest of the year, their opponents. Did you happen to see the quotes? The story I did on Fried the other day, the quotes from Charlie about Fried? Man, I thought
no.
This was another. We talked about Charlie, what a guy is in the clubhouse and how much he's meant to the Braves the last couple of years. But man, I started talking to him before the game Sunday morning. I was talking to him, and as he's talking, I'm going, "Oh shit, these are great quotes." This guy he's just such a thoughtful guy and cares so much. But he was talking about Fried. I was talking about how impressed he's been with Fried the last couple of years and what he's seen from him. And he said, I didn't really get to see him pitch in 2020 when I went here, and that was a weird year anyway. And Fried goes, 7-0 with a 2.25 ERA, short season and all that, 60-game seasons. Yeah. But he was talking about him since then, what he's seen and talking, because he talks to Max all the time. He's gotten to know him really well. And about what Max has been through in his career, and going through TJ surgery, missed 2 years basically. A lot of people question him. He was the former top prospect, first round or high first round and all this stuff. So he said, and then he got off to the slow start last year, and he had a couple of nagging injuries and all that. And it was July in Philly before he really took off. And the last game of the season, last game of July at New York was when he really started taking off. But Max or Charlie was talking about him, and he said, I remember sitting there in Philly in July and him basically looking at me like, he was searching for answers. And he said, we had a lot of conversations last year just kind of about what he was doing with his delivery, his pitch mix, his arsenal, what he was really trying to do. And he said that went on for a good while into July. And then I think he made a couple of adjustments, and he started to see like how the hitters were not quite on him. And then it started to build up. And from that point on, I don't think we talked pitching the rest of the year. This is Charlie talking. He said, because for that 2-month period, I think he was the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah.
Max went from 7-7 and 17 starts through July last year He was 7-0 with a 1.46 ERA and 11 starts in August and September. And then Charlie was talking about he got to make a bunch of starts in the postseason. He made the 6th. The one was great in Milwaukee. He had the one in LA where he actually pitched pretty well and got just a lot of weak hits and all that.
Yeah.
And then he pitched well in the first one again in the World Series. Didn't get the results, but then he pitches that clincher in Game 6, and Charlie thought that's a kind of start that in your career can really be one that you always go back to and all that.
Oh yeah.
And he's just built on that last year, and this year he's been like this the whole season. And he goes on days when he doesn't have everything clicking on all cylinders, he can still pitch and keep you in a game now and get by. And that's what I told him. I said, that's what the good ones – our Snicker was talking. He said, that's what the good ones do. The Hall of Famers that we had here didn't always feel great, but they could always get by even on a day when they didn't have their good stuff. And that's what Max does now. But Charlie was talking about him and said he said how proud he's been of him because he knows what he's been through personally and the questions that him questioning himself and all that and dealing with this mental stuff that he had to deal with and what he's become now. He's talking about how proud he's been of Max. And he said, he's talking about what we talked about. He's going to be 30, 31 years old when he goes to free agency. So he's really going to have one chance to really get a nice contract, whether that's a free agent with another team or re-signing with the Braves. And Charlie was just saying how I'm going to be a big fan of his after I leave, and after I retire, I'm going to be a big fan of his because of what I know he's gone through and what he's become. And I just hope, he said he's in position to really do whatever he wants with his career the next 6, 7, 8 years. That would put him up in his mid-late 30s. And he thinks Max will be that kind of pitcher that can do that. But to hear Charlie talk about him, you can see he cares about him like he's a little brother,
Yeah.
And he's talked to him so much, personal, all the stuff he's been through and all that. And people don't realize how close these guys get, especially pitchers who, like on days when they're not pitching, they're both sitting beside each other and talking the whole game. Or you bullpen guys talking the whole game out in the bullpen?
I mean, you get to spend more time with your teammates than your family.
Yeah.
Because when you're in town, you go home. You get home at 11 o'clock at night and say hi to your wife. Kids are asleep. You go sleep. You wake up the next morning, maybe take the kids to school or do whatever you're doing. For me, I didn't do that, but the guys that are living locally, but still, you're going to the field at noon, and then you're spending from 12:30 until about 10:30 at night with these guys. And these are your most alert, awake, hours that you're actually able to bond with people. When you're home, you're doing all your chores and getting all your crap done for the day. There's not a lot of time to really spend. And then you go on the road. And on the road, you're spending zero time with your family. So that it's when people say like this becomes a family, it really is. You're spending more time with these people than your own spouse.
Yeah. Charlie was talking about how last year was such a big deal for him because you're dealing with stuff that determines the trajectory of your career, where he is in his career. Last year was so important. How you're discussed, how he's entered the arbitration system, the money that he's making, all that's being discussed. Teams are deciding, is this a guy we keep going with and all this? So he said that was such a huge year for him last year and to do what he did in the postseason. He said, now we're talking about how he's got 2 more years where he's under team control. And we're talking about a guy entering free agency at 31. And so to see him do what he did last year was huge. I'm not going to say it was a 180 because there were games early in the year where he was pitching really well, but there were games where things didn't go his way. So it was kind of up and down. So then he ended up such a strong way the last few months. And because I had asked him, the question I'd started with Charlie was, has he got the ingredients now of a truly elite pitcher?
Yeah.
Charlie, this was this long response to that, but he said, watching Max to me is no different. It's not much different than watching Sandy. Sandy sits 98, 99. Max's heater. He can get it up there mid 90s, upper 90s, but they're so similar in that Sandy is a guy that that they both learned to pitch and their careers really took off. But he said, Max, I guess some of the question is, has he done it? Have you done it for 4, 5, 6, 7 years? Are you going to be the next Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander? Or is this going to be like, hey, you had a few good years and everybody's talking about you and everything's going really well.
And you disappear.
Or is it going to be the kind of thing where you're talking about your legacy in the game? Is that I certainly think Max has all the tools to do whatever he wants to do over the next 7, 8, 9 years. So I'm rooting for him, and I'm going to be a fan of him when I'm gone. And then he said, I'm really proud of him because I think he's dealt with some of the doubts he's had about himself, some of the questions he's had about himself he's dealt with. And I think that's the thing. It's not just as simple as, hey, here's a guy with good stuff, former first rounder. There's been some things that he's had to deal with. He's faced it, and I think he's proven to a lot of people wrong. I think that's more what I admire about Max is that he's right there at that part of the journey for him now, which is cool for me to be a part of. He said he hasn't cemented his legacy, and it's like he's trying to figure it out. It's not like he's trying to figure it out now. We're kind of at that sweet spot, he said, where he's going to determine that for himself.
Yeah, because he's in total control now. He's learned what he needs to do, and it's just going to – it's nice when you don't have to figure it out anymore. He's at the point where he knows what he has to do to succeed. Just go repeat it, and don't overthink it, and it's going to be in his control.
Charlie said it's really cool to be part of that. Charlie at his point in his career at the very end of it, but to see a young guy be at that point of his career where he could become, a great one. So I hope because talking to Charlie just off the record, I think he's going to come back for a year. As much as he loves being around his family, he hates being away from his kids, and he's not going to move them to Atlanta. They're in Tampa, but he can at least be with them spring training if he pitches for the Braves or another team down there. But he's still pitching so well. The stuff's still so good. And, if a team's going to pay him, $15 million, $10 million, whatever it is next year, and he could do it for another year, I think he's going to have a hard time walking away from that for one more year. If he would sign for like 10, 12 million or something, I think the Braves should do it because I think he's invaluable with their young pitchers. I think what he's done has been huge for those guys.
I wonder how you could turn that down. I'm with you, but it's so much money, and he seems to be a guy with the perspective of how you're never going to make that again. But at the same time, he also seems like a guy to me that could walk away from 40. It just depend. I think it just depends on how he felt and what he wanted to do.
I think if it meant going to another team, especially not a team that doesn't train down there, I think he would walk away from it. The family thing is that important to him. But there is the convenience of being able to live at home during spring training, go home on every off day, flight, make it home real quick, which he does. So I think he would come back to the Braves, but I think it's very limited. Tampa, he'd go there, but I don't think Tampa can pay him, enough to make it worth his while. But I just think the Braves, with what they've got coming back, with Fried, Wright, Strider, and then you add one more of the young guys, God, you put those guys with Charlie, and man, what a rotation you're looking at next year.
Well, honestly, you couldn't get a better mentor for your pitching staff either. And if he's producing,
still producing, he's not just like when they had the lefty that really helped Max, but he didn't pitch for him at all. He only made one start, and they paid him $18 million, but he helped Max that much. But Charlie's still producing, at a high level.
Yeah.
So
I would try to bring him back.
It'll be interesting.
It's tough with Charlie because I watch him and I think one of these years it's just not going to, that's going to be
right. And I thought it was going to be this year when he started out, but he was still throwing mid-90s with that great curveball. So,
I think the difference will be his heart won't be in it. There'll be a year
right now.
Yeah, there'll be a year where he starts off like this and his heart's just not in it, and that's when you don't get out of it. When you're just emotionally or mentally over it, and you start off like that, and you just don't have the fight and the grind and the ability to dig deep and find that extra 10% effort that really puts you back over the top to where you can figure out your season. And there'll be a season if he keeps pushing it. If he keeps throwing like this, it might be when he's 43 years old, but there's going to be a time where that fire dies, and he'll be in June, and he might just walk away. He might
as long as he can spin that ball, and throw in the mid-90s, he could still be a really good pitcher. And the Braves next year with Max, Strider, and Kyle Wright, they wouldn't need him to be more than a fourth or fifth. And maybe it's 10 million, maybe it's not even 15, maybe it's 10. He's made 20 the last two. It's not like he needs the money. 10 might be more than enough for him. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, but that he's worth that just to be a 4-starter and a mentor, and it's still a really good. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, something to think about this offseason. But he's just another one of those guys. The culture, what he does in that clubhouse, God, is huge, man. I mean,
Can't put a dollar figure on it.
Right. I mean, Max is established now. He's the ace of the team. But what Charlie brings is really invaluable. So, hey, last thing is with Diaz Edwin Diaz doing his thing now, and it's just gone viral, and it's like the talk of baseball with the trumpets, the song, which is just incredible, man. Yeah. What as a relief pitcher, those were kind of taken off when you were there. There were some big ones like Hell's Bells and Inner Sandman and all that. Which one is the coolest one of you? Have you seen enough of his Diaz? To me, dude, it's the coolest one they've ever had to me. I love this thing that they're doing. It's just awesome.
It's the best thing going.
It is awesome.
I mean,
it's awesome.
It's incredible. And it's just the way he jogs out to it, the whole thing.
And the video of him up there doing it too while he's doing this,
But if you think about that video has made its way to non-baseball fans.
Yeah.
There's people that are basketball fans or tennis fans, and they're like, this is the coolest thing I've seen. And they don't even know what's about to happen or how dominant he is or how good he is. They just see the crowd going crazy. And where's Diaz from? Is he from Puerto Rico? I think he's Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
So they see this Puerto Rican dude just jogging out to this awesome song with the trumpet. And it's a sick setup. You can't beat it.
And then they bring the guy, he's Australian. I would have never known he was Australian. He comes and does it live the other day. And Diaz didn't get in the game the first day. So the guy stayed and came back out the second. And he did it just pitch perfect live. It was just tremendous. The guy's down there in a black Mets jersey with a black hat on. It was I know Braves fans probably get tired of it because he's with a rival, but this is tremendous.
Well, I'll tell you what else is it can't be a pretty good closer. It has to be.
And he's the best closer in baseball this year by far.
That's the only way this is as big as it is because it can't be. I mean, imagine Will Smith last year running out to this thing.
Right.
And it's like you got to come in and it's got to be 100%. You're getting it done. It has to be shocking when everything falls apart and you don't get it done.
Because the crowd gets so jacked. They're all dancing to it. They're all doing the motions of trumpet. Yeah. So then if you don't come out, if you walk the first guy or give up a hit, then it's like, okay, that sucked. But if you come out, you're just dominant. You're striking out everybody. I mean, he's striking out people at a higher rate than Strider is, for God's sakes.
Yeah, but that's why it's so magical too, is because the crowd's celebrating like this game's over. We just won. This dude does not let us go down. They're not nervous at all.
Right.
They're just celebrating the win early.
They hear that trumpets and it's like, we won. That's what they feel,
Yeah. And that's why it's the best thing going in baseball, because one of the guys that's having the best seasons, one of the best closers in the game, matched up with a perfect song in a city that's going to jump on the ride.
And the Braves are doing some superb trolling too, man.
Yeah.
Contreras, that's pretty ballsy to have that as your walk-up music.
When did he pick that?
Like mid-season. It was like it had already gone viral what Diaz was doing.
Yeah. So I'm using that too. I like that song.
And one time he hit a home run against the Mets. They played it as he's circling the bases. But the best was the other day. They're showing the Mets game during the rain delay Sunday. We had almost 2-hour rain delay. They're showing the Nationals beat the Mets. The last 5 innings they showed on the video board at Braves, Truist Park. After it's over, they're playing that song at Truist Park. So it's great trolling, but the Mets though they just didn't struck gold with this thing. Yeah. To me, because everybody puts Mariano Rivera, Inner Sandman at number 1, which I put it still at number 2 because it's still terrific. But that's because Mariano was so incredible,
Yeah,
and it was cool.
He didn't even pick the song, I don't think.
Right, so. That to me is is a border. It's a number 2 probably, but to me, the one that I put that was right up there with it, Brian Wilson, in that brief moment in time when he was so good with San Francisco. It was only about 2 years, probably, right?
Yeah.
But when they played Jump Around out there, House of Pain, Jump Around, it was another one of those where the energy in the ballpark was
completely shifted,
charts, and that place was packed every game back then. Giants were in the middle of their dynasty, And the ballpark atmosphere, they do a great job in San Francisco. It was really loud. They had this great video to go perfectly with it, syncopated with it, and in sync with it. And they showed these close-up to Brian Wilson's face at certain parts of the song, and a whole crowd singing it and everything. It was awesome. It's kind of like Matt at Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin plays it in football for the fourth quarter now. That song is terrific. And so that was the other one that really stood out to me. I mean, to me, that the song's got to be great for it to have that energy, and those two songs do. But Jump Around still has that feel to it.
It's got to match the pitcher too. You know, it's like Diaz jogs to the beat.
Oh yeah, does his shoulders? That thing he does with his shoulders is really cool. It's really cool.
I think every team needs to. Well, first of all, you got to get a closer that's at lights out, or you can't even try it. But that type of stuff, I mean, it's like I said, it's reached people outside of baseball are watching this. Like, holy shit, what's going on? Then they're going to turn on the game. Like, I want to watch this guy pitch. What's all the fuss about?
Right.
And maybe they appreciate it, maybe they don't, but they're going to see him punch out too.
And with social media today, you can see all those videos. You couldn't used to see that stuff. You couldn't just call it up, you know.
Yeah.
The other one I put up there, really close, Kenley at his peak in L.A.
California Love. And you know how loud that Dodger sound system has been for the last like 8 years or whatever. Just pile of speakers.
They're playing it at concert level, and they've got a new system, I'm sure, with the entertainment industry out there. It's state of the art, so it can play even louder. But back then, they played it so loud the speakers were cracking. It was like cracking. The speakers couldn't even handle it.
Yeah.
But Kenley, with his like 6'5", 260 pounds, running in to California Love, another terrific song. Yeah. You know, Tupac and Dre. It's a all-time great song. So that place, Dodger Stadium, everybody's singing California Love. That was really cool.
Yep.
That was really cool. There's not been many of them that are that cool. To me, I put
and then there's so many pitchers. Like the thing Kenley did there was he embraced where he was playing.
Yeah,
there's so many pitchers that come in and they want to do their own thing.
Yeah,
it's like it just you're coming out to George Strait in Seattle, or something like that, right? And it just doesn't match.
And I thought it was great when Alex suggested Kenley to do "Welcome to Atlanta" when he came here, and he's done it, and it's great. Kenley's not the same pitcher he was in LA, but he's pretty damn good still when he's on a roll. And him, "Welcome to Atlanta" it's the best they've ever had here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Because it's loud and it's a great song, another great song. And they do the whole thing, and the people are doing the with their phones. They're doing the chop with their phones, syncopate. It's really cool. So that's also really, really far up there. He's just not the dominant pitcher that he was then, but he's still pretty damn good. And then the other one I really loved was Trevor Hoffman, Hell's Bells.
Yeah.
It's a little different because Trevor wasn't the dominant strikeout pitcher. He was a changeup guy and all that. But the Hell's Bells, where they turn off because not many people were doing that stuff back then. They turn off the lights, and the scoreboard would go out at the new ballpark there, and they'd play Hell's Bells. So that was pretty damn cool. Now, if he'd have been as dominant as, say, Diaz, and they did that, that would be even better. But it was pretty cool. I think
the thing stadium's got to understand, too, is like, I mean, maybe it's louder in the stands, but down the field, how loud they play that music at Dodger Stadium. Oh, I mean, it hits you deep. It wakes you up. So a lot of stadiums, they'll have this closer come in and they put the volume at like 35 out of 100. I'm like, what are you doing? You got to crank it. You have to, if you're not pissing a few people off with how loud it is, it's not loud enough for the other 98% in the park.
And the other reason that San Diego just wasn't as formidable as those other ones is because the crowd was so laid back compared to those other places.
Yeah.
Rarely did we play in front of packed houses when the Braves would go out there. Rarely did they play in front of packed houses. They do now. They're a lot better crowds.
I don't know how they got that because people ask me about that park all the time. Like, I don't know because I've never seen it like that.
Right. It's only been the last 2 years. Last year, those games against the Dodgers early in the season when they had Tatis playing and Machado playing, and they were giving the Dodgers hell, that's when they really built the atmosphere that they've had now. So they've been good. It's the only times I've ever been out there where they've had great atmosphere, except back in the day at the old stadium when they went to the LCS that year. They had the old football stadium, and that was when they had 50,000 people packed in there. But at the new ballpark, not until the last 2 years if they had a good atmosphere, loud, crazy energy.
I never once saw that.
Laid
the
back
new park
beach
I've
crowd.
never seen You know, I mean, we went there every year when I was with Atlanta, and I went there with Oakland too, and I never once felt like, I was just whatever. You know, people ask me what the stadium's like. I'm like, it's cool, but it feels like half the people were just walking by and they could see through
enjoying the weather.
Let's go check out a ball game. You know, I mean, it didn't feel like anybody made plans to be there. They were just kind of straggling through.
That's finally changed now. We'll see if they can continue it because they're going to have to, you know, keep being good, but they've spent the money to do it. But yeah, it's finally, I didn't think it was capable of it there with that atmosphere, that city.
Oh, after the Soto trade.
Right. So anyway, those are the ones that I've liked the most. And, but the Diaz thing, man, you know, it really took off when the Braves were there. I didn't realize this until he was being interviewed on MLB Network today. And he said, yeah, when they took 4 out of 5 from the Braves, that's when it really went viral. They had been doing it, but they had a packed house. They won 4 out of 5. So he pitched in at least 3 of those games. Might have been.
I hadn't even heard it. And I saw a video on Twitter of it. God, that's when I discovered it. I hadn't heard a thing about it. I hadn't really seen him come into the game. And then I saw a video on Twitter of it. I downloaded that song and I was just listening to it to just put it on my iPod. I mean, threw the shit on. My 4-year-old comes in the room, loses his mind. It's his new favorite song. He wants me to put it on every single day for him. You know, there's just something catchy about it.
I had not seen it either because this was early in the season when the Braves were out there. So the first time they played it, I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing, you know?
Yep.
And the whole video with him up there doing it, I'm just like, the whole thing was like, I tried to catch it on my phone, but it was too late. But yeah, I'm not surprised at all that it's taken off just because it's so cool. But the Braves want to hear that as infrequently as possible.
Yeah. Well, maybe they want to hear it in Atlanta.
They don't go there again this year. So, and the only 3 games left against them are here. And the Braves have had some incredible crowds, and they will sell out all 3 of those. They've got like 36 sellouts this year, dude. They're 4th in attendance in the majors, and they're only like 50 or so people a game behind the Yankees. They're going to catch the Yankees probably.
Can you tell me that's not more profitable than a TV deal and revenue sharing money?
Well, when you combine the Battery, they're getting pretty close now because they're raking in the dough at the Battery. So between the 2 of them, it offsets a lot of that. And the TV deal has been renegotiated a couple of times. It's no longer terrible. It's kind of middle of the road now. So between that and what they're raking in at the Battery the last 2 years,
be the Battery.
They're raking it in at the Battery. Just because they get a percentage of everything there, from rent to the bars to the restaurants, everything.
So I'm trying I'm trying to put together, because it seemed like teams really shied away from caring about attendance for a bit, right? Once all that TV money started flowing through the game, that's where teams kind of went crazy.
That's where the real money was, But
the Braves are selling out now, and they're using those sellouts as a reason of, this is why we're spending. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what the shift is.
Football, it's TV money. It's because obviously they don't play enough games for the attendance to really matter that much. But baseball, when you're playing 81 games and you're selling out, when you're getting 40,000, 38,000 people there, the parking, the concessions, people spend so much money when they're there. And then now with the Battery next door, used to at the old place, they park their car, go in, leave, get in their car and go. This place, they come hours before the game. They have dinner, they have drinks, and then they hang out for a while, let traffic die. They go over and drink more, whatever they do, you know. It's just different now. That was really smart. I hated when they moved out to the burbs because I like downtown ballparks, but it was a smart business move.
See, I need to go, but I need to come back out to
a great atmosphere.
And see it, because
it really is a good atmosphere.
They were building it in 16 and 17 when I was there, but we sucked.
Man, you should see it now, man. Especially
I bet it's badass.
It is. During the postseason last year, they had literally had to shut it down. There were too many people. They could not let any more people in. It's packed. It's just packed. They have like a plaza over there. The Cardinals have mimicked them. The Cardinals did the same thing next to their place. And they have a plaza where they have a big video screen, and people that don't go in a game can sit out there and watch it on the video board.
Hear the crowd noise and make the noise themselves. Yeah, that's cool.
It's right next door. Yeah, it's like they're inside.
Yeah.
So, and all the bars have outdoor seating and everything, rooftop and all that. It's a good atmosphere. So
I got to check it out.
All right. Well, we'll do this again at the end of the week, and we'll see if the Braves can catch the Mets. They got them really close.
All right.
Been a hell of a year so far. 755 is real. We are out.